Hey everyone. Welcome to the Request for Proposals webinar, Building an EV Reach Code Technical Consulting Services. We're about to get started. Everyone's on mute, so we're going to go through a couple items here. We'll talk about introductions. We'll do some quick introductions. We'll talk about the RFP submittal process, give you a quick background on CPA, and then the Building an EV Reach Code project. And we'll describe the program again and sort of get into the details of the three different parts contained in the RFP. And then we'll have a section at the end for Q&A and wrap up. Some housekeeping. As I'm sure you've all realized, audio is disabled, but please keep your phone on mute if you're joining by phone. Video is also disabled for participants. Questions must be submitted via the text chat window. Questions will be addressed in the Q&A time at the end of the presentation. So a couple important dates here. November 10th, 2022 by 4 p.m. is the deadline for submitting additional questions. Please submit questions to both the two emails you see here. One is for myself, and the other two are contracting@cleanpoweralliance.org. This presentation is being recorded, and a transcript will be available on CPA's website by Monday, November 7th. All right, quick introductions here. My name is Chico Manarola. I'm the Electrification Program Manager for Customer Programs at Clean Power Alliance. And also on the call, though not visible, is Scott Gropp. He's our Strategic Sourcing Manager for our Operations and Accounting Services team. All right, let's get into it and we'll talk about the RFP submittal process. All right, the proposal submittal process. Proposals should be submitted by 4 p.m. Pacific on November 23rd to xmanarola@cleanpoweralliance.org, which is my email, and a copy to contracting@cleanpoweralliance.org. The subject line your submittal should include proposal for building an EV Reach Code Technical Consulting Services. Submissions must include the following components as described in the RFP: a bidder's qualifications and experience with elements specified in Section 3, bidder's explanation for how it plans to meet task and deliverables specified in Attachment A, bidder's completed prospective contractor references form in Attachment B, and any required changes to CPA's pro forma contract, see Attachment D. Bidders completed proposals completed campaign contribution form, see Attachment E. CPA's background. All right, CPA is a community choice aggregation program established as a joint powers authority made up of 32 local agencies across Los Angeles and Ventura counties. These agencies have banded together to provide cleaner electricity at competitive rates, offering a choice of electricity service providers to approximately 3 million residents and businesses through approximately 1 million customer accounts in Southern California. Here's a map of our service area. You can see the different member cities as well as Ventura County and Los Angeles County. All right, let's talk about the Building an EV Reach Code program. Program overview. This program aims to develop and advance building electrification and electric vehicle infrastructure reach codes with member agencies to update local residential and commercial building codes for new construction, major remodels, and existing building retrofits. These codes are to be developed in alignment with and build on the 2022 California statewide building codes updates. In addition, this program aims to investigate regulatory processes for EV charging installations, building retrofit rebates and incentives, and financing options for residential and commercial spaces to help fund the cost of building electrification and EV charger installation for CPA customers. This research will culminate in a set of 3 potential implementation tracks for CPA to expand its building electrification and EV charging program. The new construction code program, existing building code pilot, and building an EV charging research and design program are expected to run simultaneously. So a quick overview of the three program parts that we just mentioned. So part one is our new construction reach codes program. This program is open to all 32 CPA member jurisdictions. It covers commercial and residential buildings and EV charging infrastructure. And here we expect the proposer to use existing model codes. We know there are a number of programs running in the state and a number of cities and jurisdictions that have already implemented new construction reach codes. And we expect to use those existing models rather than deriving or generating new models. The proposer will coordinate technical support with Southern California Edison, and the proposal will create a final report of outcomes and lessons learned from the new construction reach code project. Part two, the existing building reach code pilot program. This pilot program is available for 2 CPA member agencies. And the participating member agencies are to be determined. And we'll work on this list, reaching out to some of our member agencies and in consultation with the proposer. Commercial and residential buildings, EV charging infrastructure are included in the existing building reach code pilot. And in this case, the proposer will develop the model codes. Because there are fewer model codes for existing buildings, we expect this to be the proposer to generate these codes rather than building exclusively on existing models. The proposal will provide technical support to the 2 pilot agencies, and the proposer will create a final report of outcomes and lessons learned from the project. Part 3, building and vehicle charging research and design. This is a wide-ranging research program to inform next steps for CPA's electrification program. The proposer will ID tools, resources, and funding opportunities. The proposer will summarize EV charging potential and research regulatory mechanisms at existing fuel stations. The proposer will also create a final report with 3 recommended program tracks. And we'll get into a little bit more detail on what those program tracks are in upcoming slides. All right, new construction reach code program. So the new construction reach code program, the primary tasks here are to research existing state and local new construction reach codes, to host kickoff workshops for local government staff, to host stakeholder coordination meetings for technical support tracking, to lead stakeholder engagement and select model reach codes, to host public workshops for local code outreach, to identify and develop tools and processes for adoption and implementation, to develop cost-benefit analysis where needed, and to provide a final report summarizing support provided to member agencies and challenges encountered. All right, model code development. As we've already mentioned, dozens of cities have passed new construction reach codes in California, and numerous entities from other CCAs, regional energy networks, and the statewide reach codes program have created template model reach codes for new construction. The proposer will utilize these pre-existing reach codes and templates to curate a suite of new construction reach codes for this program. CPA does not anticipate the need to write new model reach codes, but rather to edit existing examples for use by CPA member agencies. Proposer and CPA will pick 2 to 4 reach code types. Those could include all electric, electric ready, or natural gas bands, and electric vehicle charging reach codes, and then create 2 to 4 versions of each code with varying levels of stringency. And here we have a quick example of, here's an example of 2 model codes, 2 code types created, model code A and B, and then 2 levels of stringency, low and high. And then this could be for 2 or 4 reach code types, and then with 2 to 4 levels of stringency. And the proposer will hold 4 to 6 model code workshops to outline the model codes chosen and to get feedback from member agencies on concerns and challenges they expect to face in passing them. Stakeholder engagement. There is a fair amount of partner coordination involved with this RFP. Many interested parties are currently involved in providing some level of support to member agencies through online trainings, on-call support, and technical assistance. The proposer in this project will leverage any existing resources while tracking the support provided to member agencies. The goal here is to leverage as much of this existing support as possible and tracking what support is being supplied to each member agency. Southern California Edison and its contractors will serve as primary providers for on-call technical support. Proposer will host monthly stakeholder meetings with relevant stakeholders to track existing support and coordinate overall support to member agencies. The exact role of SCE and other partners will need to be clarified by the proposer. This may change over time. And the proposer must specify how it plans to problem solve in the event that SCE does not meet its anticipated responsibility or its responsibility in this space shifts. All right, public workshops for local code outreach. New construction, public reach code workshops. So these workshops are separate from model code development workshops. Here, the proposer will host at least one public workshop in each municipality that pursues adoption of new construction reach codes. The primary goal of the workshop is will be to educate and inform key community members and stakeholder groups, including but not limited to building owners, environmental groups, EV charging companies, building decarbonization experts, energy workers, and members of the public on the value of codes and the types of model codes that have been proposed by the member agency. CPA seeks to answer stakeholder questions, address community building concerns, and generate community support for the reach codes leading into local council meetings. The proposer will work with member agency staff to determine the content of each of these public workshops and the level of feedback to be solicited from attendees. All right, let's shift now to the existing building reach code pilot. And just a reminder, if folks have questions to use the chat and we'll get to them in the Q&A session, but you can go ahead and add questions as we go. All right, the existing building reach code pilot. The primary tasks here are to research and summarize current existing building reach codes, to conduct monthly stakeholder engagement calls, to conduct 1 to 2 workshops per member agency, to conduct model code development workshops and develop final model codes, to provide on-call technical and adoption support, to develop adoption and implementation tools and templates, to create cost-benefit analysis for building an EV charging reach codes, and to create a final report summarizing the support provided and lessons learned for each member agency, for the 2 member agencies. All right, model code development. This process will look a little bit different than it did for the new construction. So relatively few model codes exist for existing building reach codes. The proposer will develop a summary report on the variety of reach code strategies that is easy to understand to review by stakeholders. Proposer will hold a kickoff workshop, monthly stakeholder engagement calls, and model code development workshops. The proposer will create existing building model codes with varying levels of stringency based on member agency feedback in 2 to 4 model code development workshops and CPA input. And again, the final output here is similar to what we saw in our previous section, where we have multiple model code types and then varying levels of stringency for each model code type. Proposer will then work with pilot agencies to create customized versions of the model codes. Stakeholder engagement. Technical support and partner coordination. Again, there are many actors. Are currently involved in providing some level of support to member agencies through online trainings, on-call support, and technical assistance. In this case, though, with our two pilot member agencies, the proposer will provide on-call technical and adoption support in the form of answering questions, attending City Council meetings, and providing additional resources to policymakers for pilot member agencies. Southern California Edison and its contractors will serve as primary providers for on-call technical support to all non-pilot member agencies. In other words, for any CPA member jurisdictions that are not part of the two pilot group, questions from those member agencies will be directed to Southern California Edison. Proposer will host monthly stakeholder meetings with pilot agencies and relevant stakeholders to coordinate and track technical support. The exact role of SCE and other partners will need to be clarified by the proposer, and proposer must specify how it plans to problem solve in the event SCE does not meet its anticipated responsibility. And this pilot will also contain a strong public workshop element. So public workshops for local code outreach, existing building reach code workshops. Here, the proposer will host 1 to 2 public workshops in each member agency that pursues adoption of existing building reach codes. The workshop goals will be to educate and inform key community members and stakeholder groups, including but not limited to building owners, environmental groups, EV charging companies, building decarbonization experts, energy workers, and members of the public on the value of codes and the types of model codes that have been proposed by the member agency. CPA seeks to use the public workshops to answer stakeholder questions, address building community concerns, and generate community support for the reach codes leading into local council meetings. Proposer will work with member agency staff to determine the content of each public workshop and a level of feedback to be solicited from the attendees. And again, this is for the 2 pilot member agencies. Okay. Let's shift to part 3, building and vehicle charging electrification research and design. All right, the primary tasks for building and vehicle charging electrification research and design. Primary tasks are to identify tools, resources, and funding opportunities to electrify new and existing buildings, to identify tools, resources, and funding opportunities to increase EV infrastructure at new and existing buildings, to research CPA's financing options for building electrification and EV charging infrastructure, to research EV charging potential and regulatory mechanisms at existing fueling stations, and to create a final report, a summary report including 3 recommendations for existing building electrification in an EV infrastructure program over a 3-year time horizon. All right, research and design purpose. The overall goals. So the main goal of the research and design program is to provide analysis on assorted means for CPA to expand its building electrification offerings. The scope of this program is wide, and it includes incentive and rebate options, financing options in lieu fees, EV charging rebates, and regulatory mechanisms that can be employed to add EV charging to existing gasoline stations. The primary deliverable is a final report containing a minimum of 3 recommended program tracks. We'll talk a little bit more about what those program tracks can look like. And over a minimum of a 3-year time horizon for each track. So again, we're looking to get recommendations for how to build our electrification program with a minimum time horizon of 3 years, but it could be over a longer period. Inclusion and the final deliverable should also have an inclusion of results of the research for tools and templates, incentive and rebates, financing options, and regulatory mechanisms for gas stations that has been done in the other tasks. All of that information should be contained in that final report. CPA is open to additional suggestions from the proposer on innovative programs to further building electrification and can adjust the scope of research contained here accordingly. Again, we're casting sort of a wide net here. We have a number of tasks we want to be completed and research tracks that we want to be investigated, but if the proposers have additional suggestions or tracks, we're open to those. All right, what are the 3 recommended program tracks? The proposer should provide a minimum of 3 program recommendations and outline their reach, cost, challenges, and potential GHG savings. Examples of program track options include, but are not limited to, for example, 1, an expanded reach code program. So for example, this could be if we decided to expand existing building reach codes to all of our member jurisdictions rather than 2 pilot programs, or expand the number of and type of reach code models that we offer. 2, an expanded reach code program plus water heating and HVAC appliance incentives and kitchen and laundry appliance incentives. 3, a recommended program that had an expanded reach code program, water heating and HVAC appliance incentives, kitchen and laundry appliance incentives, and additionally EV charging incentives. So each of those would look very different, would have a different scope, a different budget, and a different reach. Each program track should have a minimum of a 3-year time horizon. Each program track should include an analysis of the potential impact of financing options applicable to the measures proposed. All right, so I know this is 3 different programs, all bundled in one RFP. And so here we have an example program timeline. This is for illustrative purposes only. This is not how you must necessarily scope out the timeline for this project, but looking at about a 2-year time horizon here, you know, if we get proposals in by the end of the year and have that worked out, and looking at a program kickoff in Q1 of 2023, we're looking at roughly 2 years for all 3 of these programs to run concurrently or simultaneously. And what that would look like is a program kickoff for all 3 programs early on in the first quarter of 2023. The research program would probably be the shortest part of the RFP, so that could be completed by Q3 2023 or whatever timeline you think is reasonable there. While part 1 and 2, the reach code programs, could extend the entire 2 years and not be completed with a final report until Q4 2024. Again, this is just an example. This is just to give you a sense of how some of the different tasks in here could line up. But we expect parts 1 and 2, the reach code programs, to run for about 2 years, depending on how quickly member agencies sign on and how quickly those 2 pilot member agencies for existing buildings move forward. And I'll also add here that given the makeup of our member agencies in Ventura and LA County, some member agencies are farther along than others, and so they might look to adopt more quickly in 2023, while other member agencies who might take some convincing or might sign on to the program later on, they could be looking at adoption in 2024. So there is a range of where member jurisdictions will land on this timeline. Okay, innovation in our REACH code program. And this we specified explicitly in the RFP for part one, new construction REACH codes. Again, we know there are a lot of new construction REACH code programs. However, CPA seeks responses that think creatively about how CPA can work with its member agencies to pursue electrification in EV infrastructure programs using REACH codes. CPA is also interested in developing innovative REACH codes that look beyond traditional residential and commercial spaces. CPA is interested in options that expand a new construction REACH code program. All right, and now we are at our Q&A phase. So please go ahead and submit questions to the chat, and we will answer them to the best of our ability here. Okay, I have a couple questions already in the chat. Let me look through these and see. Okay, so the first question here is, how many member agencies will this project be introduced to? We need to understand the potential demand for workshops. This is a great question. So part one, new construction REACH codes, and this is spelled out in the RFP, but part one will be available to all of CPA's member agencies, which is, there are 32. Part two, the existing building REACH code pilot will be available to 2 member agencies to be determined. We still have to figure out who those 2 member agencies are. But so in this case, for existing buildings, you'd only be doing workshops for 2 member agencies. And then the research and design is just a research and design project with no workshops there. So we have a question here: what criteria is necessary or desired to be included in the cost-benefit analysis? As part of the scope of work, what will be the targeted benefits and what benefits should not be part of calculation? So here I will refer to the new batch of REACH codes that are being released and the cost-benefit analysis associated with each one. So we would expect cost-benefit analysis to be synchronous with what is currently being done for updated REACH codes for 2022. Next question, given that we don't know how many of the 32 agencies will want to pursue a REACH code, how do you suggest that we prepare a budget for task one? This is really up to each proposer how you want to recommend budgeting for this. So I'll leave that up to each individual. But certainly there are options for time and materials based on how many agencies participate. The next question here, have you already received interest from the 2 member agencies for the pilot program? How much of that enrollment outreach will the proposer be providing? So for the first part of this question, it's still to be determined which 2 agencies will participate in the pilot program. We have not secured those 2, and so those 2 jurisdictions will be determined with some outreach to figure out who's interested and with some input from the proposer. We also expect some of the workshops that we do to help us determine who is interested in doing the existing building Reach Code pilot. And just so the second part here, how much of that enrollment outreach will the proposer be providing? As I mentioned, so the outreach will be done in conjunction with CPA and through some of the workshops that will happen early in the process. Okay, next question here, who will be responsible for coordinating efforts with SCE and the RENS and Building Decarb Coalition, CPA, or the consultant? So, the RFP, I think, goes into some detail here. We know there's a lot of different stakeholders. We envision the proposer to be the primary coordinator between each of these stakeholders, and that would be primarily through tracking what support is being provided to member agencies from each of those organizations, and then through the monthly stakeholder calls as is itemized in the RFP. CPA, will participate in some of that coordination, but it is one of the primary tasks for proposer. Yeah. All right, next question, can you give a sense of how much total budget there is to work with? So we're really looking for the proposer here to itemize their budget and to give us a sense for how much the total project will cost. Again, we know there's going to be some flexibility in a couple different parts where we've said that we're looking for suggestions from the proposer. So there's no specific number we're looking for, but we are looking for a detailed budget from each proposer. So the next question, are you open to bids for a subset of the tasks, or must proposals cover all 3 of the tasks? So we are looking for proposals to cover all 3 tasks. This doesn't mean there aren't opportunities for proposers to work with other organizations, but we are looking for proposals that cover all all parts. So the next question, can you clarify what type of on-call technical support is expected from SCE? I think, this is probably a question best directed to SCE. They have a number of consultants that work with local governments answering questions about the REACH code process, helping them develop models and giving them guidance on how to bring that through to the local council. There's a host of other support they also provide. I don't have a full list in front of me, but this will be a task in general that the proposer will need to itemize and clarify with SCE as we move through the program. All right, next question here. For task 1, is the assumption that the consultant will need to provide technical assistance through the entire code adoption process, including staff reports, attendance at planning commission and city council meetings? So again, I'll point you to the RFP. We do itemize a number of different tools that we want the proposer to develop and a number of different contact points where we want the proposer to work with our member local governments. And I would say all of the above. And of course, we are open to suggestions, as I've mentioned, through how this process could work better, like what kinds of innovative REACH codes there are, and any other process recommendations. But we do anticipate the proposer to work with member agencies through the entire process. Next question, are any existing contracts with SCE, RENS, and other stakeholders considered a conflict of interest for this work? Maybe the only conflicts of interest we're asking folks to disclose in Appendix E, I believe it is with any campaign contributions. So please make sure to itemize all of those, and the rest we'll take on a case-by-case basis. All right, so right now, that's all the questions we have in the queue. We'll give folks another minute here to see if other questions come up. If not, we can end a little early. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions, so I actually have 2 more slides. Oops. I want to show. Sorry about that. I went back to the beginning by accident. And so I want to quickly wrap up here with a description of the Q&A process and next steps. Okay, so the Q&A process. So November 10th, 2022 is the deadline to submit all questions in writing regarding this RFP by 4 p.m. Pacific time. Please make sure to send those questions to myself, xmanarole at cleanpoweralliance.org, with a copy to contracting@cleanpoweralliance.org. All questions will be responded to in writing and will be posted to CPA's website on November 18th of this year, 2022. CPA will not respond to any questions or communications related to the RFP outside of the formal Q&A process and this webinar. A note here, if it is discovered that a bidder contacts and receives information from any CPA personnel, board director, or alternate outside of this Q&A process, CPA may, in its sole determination, disqualify such bidder proposal from further consideration. And okay, I see a couple more questions. I'll cover this, wrap up, and then we'll get to those remaining questions. So wrap up next steps. November 23rd, 2022 by 4 p.m. Pacific time is the deadline for proposals to be submitted to, again, the same 2 websites, myself and contracting@cleanpoweralliance.org. And the subject line of your submittal should include proposal for building and EV reach code technical consulting services. I believe that is the last slide here, so why don't I go back and see what questions we have left. So next question I see is, under research for EV charging potential, are you looking for a technical potential assessment? I assume this is in reference to part 3, where here we're looking more for a summary of existing research. We're not asking the proposer to do a lot of detailed research on EV charging potential, but rather summarizing existing research. Next question is again in regard to the budget. So having assisted multiple studies with reach codes over the past decade, each engagement can require at least 50K of staff time. If we were to work with 5 agencies plus the 2 for existing buildings, the coordination with SCE et al. And task 3, this ends up being a budget of close to 500K. Is this within what you are anticipating? So again, here, we don't have a set number. We are looking for the proposer to itemize their expected costs for each task, and we'll consider each proposal based on how that meets those tasks. All right, the next comment here or question, also, please correct me if I am wrong, but there wasn't a selection criteria identified in the RFP. I believe there is selection criteria in in section 6D and E. Great. Well, seeing no more questions, I think we can wrap up for today. Again, please feel free to submit any additional written questions and we will respond to them by the dates in the RFP. Okay, thank you so much. We look forward to reviewing your proposals and have a great rest of the day.